When Daniel woke up that morning, he expected another dull day aboard the Terran exploration ship Aurora's Path. The ship had been charting the uninhabited sectors near the galactic rim for months, scanning planets for minerals, water, or even traces of microbial life. His life was routine: coffee, repairs, reports, and sleep. Nothing ever truly changed for an engineer stationed this far from home. But fate had a way of throwing him into something he could never have imagined. It began when the ship received a faint distress signal from a nearby moon. The signal wasn't Terran, and its coding didn't match any known language or frequency. The captain authorized a landing team to investigate, and Daniel volunteered, mostly because he wanted to stretch his legs and see something new. When the shuttle broke through the thin violet clouds of the moon, they saw what looked like a colossal structure half buried in crystalline sand, a ruin of silver and gold metal, unlike anything human technology could produce. Inside the structure, they found a chamber humming with dim blue light. At its center stood a figure inside a transparent pod. She was humanoid but unmistakably alien, skin faintly luminescent, eyes like pools of starlight, and intricate markings across her arms that pulsed softly in rhythm with her heartbeat. When Daniel brushed his hand against the pod, a surge of energy jolted through him. The lights flared, and before anyone could react, the pod opened with a sigh, like ancient air escaping a tomb. The woman gasped awake, and the moment her eyes met his, the floor glowed with runes. The others shouted for Daniel to back away, but the light engulfed both of them. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the room in an alien tongue, then translated through their communicators. By sacred bond and witness, the union is sealed. The light faded, leaving Daniel and the alien woman standing in stunned silence. Back aboard the Aurora's Path, they tried to make sense of what happened. The translators slowly deciphered fragments of her speech. Her name was Illyra, and she was not just anyone. She was the last surviving monarch of a fallen interstellar empire, placed in stasis thousands of years ago during a civil war. Her people had used ancient biotechnology, and what Daniel triggered was a ceremonial binding, a marriage ritual that fused her genetic and psychic signature with his. Daniel thought it was some kind of translation error until Illyra began to share his thoughts without speaking. He would think of home, and she would whisper softly, describing the blue skies of Earth as if she saw them through his eyes. When he tried to sleep, he could feel her emotions flicker in his mind: sadness, longing, and confusion. The ship's medics confirmed a neural resonance between them, something that couldn't be undone without risking both their lives. Illyra was graceful yet strong, carrying herself with quiet authority. Even among humans, she radiated a presence that made people instinctively lower their voices. She began to learn their language rapidly, and when she finally spoke fluent English, her words carried a melodic rhythm that made even simple phrases sound profound. She told Daniel stories of her lost world, of floating citadels, oceans of liquid light, and songs that bent gravity itself. In return, Daniel told her about Earth's struggles, its wars, and its stubborn hope to explore the stars. She listened, intently, fascinated by humanity's relentless drive to survive. Over time, the crew grew uneasy. Illyra's power was not just symbolic. The ship's sensors detected subtle distortions around her, a gravity field that fluctuated when she became emotional, lights flickering in her presence, machinery responding to her will. Some whispered that she could crush the ship with a thought, but Daniel saw something else in her. She wasn't dangerous, she was lonely. Their connection deepened in ways neither could explain. One day, as they observed a nebula through the viewing deck, Illyra asked Daniel why humans sought the stars despite the dangers. He answered simply, "Because we want to know what's out there, and maybe who else is." She looked at him quietly, then said, "Now you know, and you are part of what's out there, as I am part of you." It wasn't just poetic talk. Her bioluminescent markings glowed brighter whenever he was near, their heartbeats synchronizing unconsciously. Months passed. The Aurora's Path received orders to return to Earth for debriefing, but Illyra warned them that the signal they had detected might not have been hers alone. Something ancient was still listening, Within days, strange vessels emerged from the dark, sleek, blade-like ships with shimmering armor. They hailed in a distorted voice, demanding that the Queen Bonded be surrendered. Alira went pale. She recognized them as remnants of her empire's warlords, creatures born of the same empire that had destroyed her home. The captain wanted to flee, but Alira stepped forward. "They will follow until the bond is broken or I am gone," she said. "But if I face them, they may recognize your courage as strength." Daniel refused to let her go alone. Together, they took the shuttle and approached the enemy fleet. The warlord's flagship dwarfed theirs, its hull etched with moving light. When they landed, armored beings with silver helmets surrounded them. The leader approached, towering and cold, demanding proof of her authority. Alira raised her hand, and the air itself shimmered. The markings on her skin flared, and an emblem appeared above her palm, a crest of her royal house. The warlord hesitated, then turned his gaze to Daniel. "And this one?" he sneered. "A creature of flesh and decay?" Alira's expression hardened. "He is bound to me. His courage awakened the ancient code. By law and life, he stands as my consort." The warlord laughed, but Daniel stood firm. "If being human means standing with her," he said, "then that's exactly what I'll do." The warlord lunged, and before Daniel could react, Alira moved faster than sight. The impact sent waves of light cascading across the floor. Energy crackled, and Daniel's vision blurred as her power erupted. But through their bond he felt her fear, not for herself, but for him. Without thinking, he reached out and touched her arm. The resonance between them surged, and together, they unleashed a shockwave that sent the warlord crashing into the wall. When the light faded, silence filled the chamber. The other soldiers knelt. That moment changed everything. The warlord's fleet withdrew, their allegiance restored to Alira. She turned to Daniel, her voice trembling with wonder. "You did what no one of my kind could. You shared the burden." The bond between them grew even stronger after that, no longer just a connection of energy, but of trust and purpose. When they finally returned to Earth, the world was never the same. The presence of an alien queen living among humans changed history. Governments scrambled to study her technology, and philosophers debated what her marriage to a human meant for the future. Some feared it, others celebrated it. But for Daniel and Alira, it was simpler. They had found something rare across the vast expanse of the galaxy: understanding. In time, Alira adapted to Earth's way of life, though her aura of nobility never faded. She would stand on the balcony at night, gazing at the stars with quiet reflection. Daniel often joined her, and they would talk for hours. She once told him that among her people to share one's soul was the highest form of unity. "Our marriage," she said softly, "was never meant to be forced. The ancient bond awakened because your heart reached mine without fear." Daniel smiled. "Guess I was just curious." She laughed, the sound like wind through crystal. "Curiosity is the spark of life itself." Years passed, and humanity's technology advanced with Alira's help. Her knowledge led to new energy sources, faster ships, and peaceful diplomacy with emerging alien civilizations. Yet through all the progress, Daniel remained the same humble engineer who had once brushed dust off a strange pod and changed the fate of two species. Whenever people asked him what it was like being married to a queen, he would only say, "It's a lot like being human. You listen, you learn, and you try not to mess it up." But in private moments, when Alira's light glowed gently beside him, he understood something deeper. The bond that had once felt accidental was no accident at all. Across countless stars through millennia of silence, two lives had been waiting to meet, not to conquer, but to share the same breath, the same purpose, the same fragile hope. And so the legend spread among the stars that a human and an alien queen had once defied the boundaries of biology, empire, and time itself. Not through power or fear, but through the simplest truth in the universe, that understanding could bridge any distance. Even now, deep in the archives of alien worlds, her story is told as a song. It begins not with a war or a prophecy, but with a single man who touched a sleeping queen and changed what it meant to be human forever.